Have you ever walked into a room and just known that you were different, that space wasn't built for you, or that you were going to have to work twice as hard just to be taken half as seriously? And we are going to be talking about that today. I'm actually going to share my own story and give you 3 reframes that generally shifted how I move through those spaces. And I want to leave you today with something you can work on and develop as you go along. That's going to change how you show up. So let's get into it. Okay, so what's really going on with me right now? Honestly, I am in one of those seasons where everything feels like I'm shifting at once. And I don't quite have all the answers yet, and I'm trying to be okay with that. And if you follow me on socials, you might have noticed that things have been looking a little different lately. And that's because I've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes on what I actually want the whole thing to look like. Now, my content pillars have shifted. The way I want to show up has changed. And I think for a long time, I was creating from a place of what should I post instead of who am I actually becoming? I treat my socials kind of like a diary, a real time document of the person I'm growing into. And right now, I'm in the messy middle of figuring it out and what my business, what this platform is, and how all the different parts of me fit together. Now, the senior lecturer, the hybrid athlete, the content creator, the woman who has so many things she wants to say. So, if you're new here, welcome to the journey. And if you have been here a while, thank you for staying as I figure this out loud. What actually brings me perfectly to today's episode, because what I want to talk about today is something I have lived, something I still live, and something I know so many of you are navigating right now, even if you haven't had that words for it yet. Right, so I want to start with my own story because I think a lot of the time we talk about diversity and inclusion in this very theoretical way in policies, in tick boxes, and HR statements. But I want to talk about what it actually feels like in your body when you walk into a space and realize you don't fit the mold. So for me, it started early. I came into teaching through physical education, so through PE, a sports environment. And if you know anything about the sports and education world in this country, you know it's predominantly male-led, predominantly white British. And there is a very specific image of who belongs there. And I walked in as a young Black woman. From day one, there was the quiet pressure, this constant low level awareness that I was different, that I had to work harder to prove more, take up less space just to be taken seriously. You are always on the sideline in some way. And the thing nobody tells you is how exhausting it is. It's the extra effort, the mental load of constantly code switching, of monitoring how you come across, or wondering whether the way you were passed over in that meeting was about your idea or about something else entirely. That weight. It is real and it deserves to be named. So let's sit in that for a second, because once we've named it honestly, that's where the real conversation can start. Okay, so I think it is time we open the doors to our personal office hours together. But before we actually get started today, here's what I want you to sit with. Because this episode is all about learning, reflecting, and pushing through those painful situations where we have probably faced so far, and that is that dreaded feeling of a room not being built for you. I need you to hear this completely and understand that having a room which you do not directly represent, the people inside, does not mean you don't belong in it. It means you are brave enough to enter anyway. And I want to offer you 3 reframes that genuinely change the way I move through spaces where I don't see myself reflected. So the first reframe I want to discuss is your difference is not a deficit. I spent so long trying to blend in to make myself easier to accept, softening my voice, second guessing my instincts, laughing off things that didn't sit right because I didn't want to be seen as difficult. And what I've learned slowly, sometimes painfully, is that the very things that made me feel other are the things that make me effective. Now, my perspective, my lived experience, the fact that I ask questions nobody else thinks to ask because I come at things from a completely different angle. The fact that I notice what gets missed and what gets overlooked. Who gets left out of the conversation because I've been that person. The reality is, when you are the only one in a room who looks like you are often doing invisible work that nobody acknowledges. You are translating, you are bridging, you are bringing a depth of awareness to every situation that people who have always belonged in that room simply don't have to develop. That is not a weakness. This is a skill. And the sooner you stop apologizing for it and start leading with it, the more powerful you become. So ask yourself, when have you been shrinking something about yourself that is actually your greatest strength? Because I promise you, the thing you've been trying to hide is probably the thing your industry needs the most. Now, the next reframe is you don't have to earn your place. You occupy it. There is the thing that happens, especially to women of color, especially to young professionals, where we feel like we have to justify our presence, like we have to perform at 150% just to be seen as equal. And I get it, because the alternative feel risky. If I'm not perfect, if I put a foot wrong, if I took up too much space, will they decide I don't belong here after all? That fear is real. I felt it. I've walked into rooms over-prepared, overqualified, and still somehow feel like I was one mistake away from someone questioning whether I should be there. But here's the reality. Nobody else in that room is doing that calculation. The people who have always seen themselves reflected in leadership are not second guessing whether they deserve that seat. They just sit down. They just speak. They just exist in the space without needing to earn it first. And I want that for you. The quiet, unshakable knowing that you are allowed to simply be there, to speak first, to disagree, to not know the answer and say so. To take up a space that was already yours the moment you walked through the door. You don't have to perform your way into belonging. You already belong, and start acting like it. And the final reframe we will be discussing today is you are not just in the room. You are expanding it. This one, it took me the longest to really internalize because for a long time, I just wanted to get through, survive the room, not stand out for the wrong reasons, keep my head down and prove myself through results. And I started noticing something. The younger women coming into the spaces I'd worked so hard to get into, they were watching. Not in a pressure way, okay? Just noticing that I was there. That someone who looks like them had made it into this room. And I realized that my presence, even when I felt invisible or irrelevant to me, was signaling something to someone else. So the reality is, every time you show up fully, not a diluted version of yourself, but the whole complicated, multi passionate, you shift what that room thinks is possible. You expand the ceiling. You quietly rewrite who belongs here. Now, I want to make this clear. You don't actually have to carry that as a burden, and you are not responsible for fixing any broken system on your own. But you can carry it as a purpose, as a reason to keep going on the days when it feels pointless. And as a reminder that your presence is never just about you. The rooms you enter will never look the same because you were in them. And that is not a small thing, okay? This is a legacy, even if nobody ever says it out loud. Okay, I think we've come to the end of that, and hopefully that these reframes hit the spot. So those were my 3 reframes, and I would like you to embody today, but before I officially close the doors for this week's office hours, and yes, it was a little bit shorter than usual, but I think it was needed, very focused, very specific to what I would like us to look at. But before I finish, I just want to say this, and this is important. It is okay if you are not there yet. It is okay if you are in a season of figuring out how to be yourself in spaces that weren't designed for you. Growth is not linear. Breaking the timeline, okay? This podcast, what it's called, the actual meaning is all about rejecting the idea that you are supposed to have it all figured out by a certain point, okay? We don't do that round here. We're taking away those numbers, we're taking away those specific times of what we need to be able to achieve in a specific timeline. So some days you will walk in and own it. Some days you will go home and cry in the car. All right, I've been there, I've done that. It's not great. But both are valid. Both are part of it. Both are part of your journey of being able to break this timeline and start showing the true growth that you actually deserve. But what matters is that you kept on going, that you don't let the discomfort of being the only one become a reason to shrink. All right, so I think this might be the perfect time to put these tools, these reframe phrases that we've just gone through and the mindset into action and give you your one thing for this week. And I want you to really sit with this one. So this week, your one thing is to pick one area that you have been shrinking yourselves. And you are going to try out these reframes that we've just gone over in our office hours and see how you can stop shrinking yourself in spaces that you do not need to shrink. You just need to be yourself. Now, I just want to make sure that this is clear. Not trying to pick all of the items in your to-do list or on your goals development. We're only going to be picking one, all right? Just one conversation, maybe one task, one scenario that you are usually faced with, and we're just going to put this to action. Now, ideas where this could go. You potentially might have to be in a meeting and suddenly sometimes the people around you make you feel a little bit uncomfortable because you've got a lot of seniors, you've got a lot of middle leaders, and you feel that your voice is not valid. Well, actually, this is the perfect time to put that in. Stop trying to fit in the mold of that obedient staff member who just listens and acts. Have your voice heard. Say at least one thing, one contribution which you can bring to the team and the department, and try and show your speciality. Don't shrink just because you are scared of speaking out, that you might be seen as aggressive or disagreeing with certain terms. What you come up with can be the missing piece your department needs. So let that stick here. It can even be something in your personal life. So maybe in the WhatsApp groups, your group chats with your friends, and you're maybe deciding on going on a girls' trip, for example. And you are not usually the person who recommends what you are going to do for that specific time. And this might be your chance to do that. All the time, you usually just agree with other people and you never get to do the things that you really want to do and add to the group. This is your opportunity. Use those reframes, use your process or mindset to go through and take up space. Be the person who gives the organization details. Be the person who actually takes lead of bringing the group together. So you are seen as that trustworthy main person who can do it all, instead of that person who consistently sits back at the back of the crowd. All right, so I think we're going to end the conversation here. And I just want to thank you so much for spending the time with me today. Now, if this episode hits more and you feel that there might be someone who's close to you or someone you know at work who really needed to hear this, somebody who needs to get out their shout, I know that actually they belong in that room, they are meant to be there, and they are meant to be taking up space. Do me a favor and send them this episode and make sure they listen right to the end. So when it comes to that one thing that we ask you to do each episode, they actually go and do it. And if both of you have done this now, so you, your colleague, your friend, you can be accountability partners and making sure that you are going through the process together and stepping out your shell, because this is what we do here. As I mentioned, we are breaking the timeline. We are becoming the person that we should be over time based on our own standards, our own journey, not what society says. So wherever you are clocking in today into our office, either it's on our YouTube, our Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever you get your podcast episodes, make sure to like and share and subscribe so we can reach out to more people who need to hear this message. Now, next episode is going to be more of a kind of sit down, let's get our to-do list or our checklist of what we want to achieve, because we're going to start looking at when we have a lot of these passions as professionals, how can we manage all of these and be still successful? So we're going to look at specific systems that we can maybe put in place, and I'm going to share a little bit of the systems also that I am currently using to help me manage my business, my career, my dissertation, so my master's, which is coming to the end, thank God, just personal life itself. So we are going to be able to expand our horizon and how to make everything just work when we are extremely busy. So thank you again for joining me on this episode. And remember, we are consistently breaking the timeline over here, and these are the honest conversations we are consistently going to be having about our career, our professional growth, our personal growth, and just being that awesome professional that we are. I shall see you next time.